welcome back to my channel. My name is Nia Hope, and if you're new here or you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button right down below. So in today's video, I will be diving deep into a conversation about race. I will also be addressing information as well as misinformation about my own ethnicity that has been circulating through YouTube as of late. Because the topic of race and now apparently my own ethnicity can be controversial, I will be approving comments that are constructive and positive in nature. So that means if you want to leave a demeaning, disparaging, or just outright vulgar comment, I will block and or report you. Towards the end of this video, I will be sharing with you all the results of a DNA test that I took a while back. But before that, let's dive into, I guess, more pressing issues. If you're not aware, in the fall of last year, 2018, I filmed and posted a video showing my very first reaction to a different DNA test that I took. Now, I wasn't flippant about what DNA test I took at all. I specifically took a test called African Ancestry for a good reason. For me, growing up as an African American, I have never known my roots outside of America for the most part. Years ago, I do remember myself and some other family members on my dad's side of the family did some digging, and we uncovered some records via the US Census where we were able to see my great-great-great whatever grandfather and grandmother and their children who were slaves. We were even able to see what parish they lived in, what plantation they lived on, and we thought we might have found who the plantation owner was, but I didn't have enough documentation to see if that information was 100% correct. But if that information was correct, that plantation owner was a man who came from Ireland. Now, on my mom's side of the family, the only family history that I have that reaches outside of America is in the West Indies. My great-grandmother, so my mom's father's mother, immigrated from Barbados to the US years and years ago. But that's all the information I have about her, and all I know about her on top of that is that she came from Barbados and she was also the daughter of a slave. So as you can see, on either side of my family, I've always hit a brick wall, so to speak, in terms of knowing my family's roots. And for me, if on either side of my family, as far as I could search and kind of uncover history, always fed back into slavery, for me that always meant that the people that came before them were from Africa, because that's where slaves were pulled from. There are so many different types of DNA test kits that you can buy online right now in this very moment. And if you have an African ancestry, all of them will tell you what country and or what region in Africa your roots are coming from. But this specific test that I took previously, not the one that I'm going to reveal in this video, but the one I previously took was called African Ancestry. And they were the only test on the market that boasted that they could tell you not only what country and region your African ancestry came from, but they could also tell you a tribe, which I thought was very unique, very appealing, and it's simply like you can't put a price tag on that. That's very specific and targeted information. And so obviously I chose that test because I've spent all of my life wanting to know that information, but feeling as though I would never get it, that there was no way to obtain that information, that my history was untraceable, and that history was going to always be untraceable because it was robbed from myself and from my family solely due to slavery. So in talking about African ancestry and that specific DNA test, they provide two different DNA test kits. One test is the maternal DNA kit, and there's also a paternal DNA kit. The maternal DNA kit can be taken by both men and women, but the paternal DNA test kit can only be taken by men. So obviously I took the maternal DNA test kit. Now the maternal DNA kit only traces your maternal lineage. So that means it traces my mom, her mom's mom, etc., etc. So what it's testing is really just a fraction of your ancestry. And also with African ancestry DNA, they will only give you details if you have an African ancestry. So if you wind up having an Asian or European or anything other than African DNA result, you'll just see that it says Asian ancestry, but it won't tell you like where in Asia or any other type of detail. So in the video that I previously posted and have since taken down, you can see me in complete shock because I found out that my maternal lineage is not African, it's European. And that shock quickly dissolved into disappointment because in my mind, I thought I had been presented with an opportunity to learn information that I thought I would never, ever, ever in a million years have the opportunity to find out. And once again, I was still left with no answer. I still didn't know because my family was brought to the West Indies and Barbados and my family that was brought here to America, I have no idea where they were pulled from in Africa, and that was the specific reason why I took that test, to try to find out that information specifically. So in addition to being disappointed and kind of feeling like I'm back at square one, I'm not going to know this information, I was also in a state of shock, or maybe I should say like a state of confusion, because I'm just like, okay, if I have this European ancestry, where did it come from? Because it's not like I have a great-grandmother or grandfather or any relative that I know on either side of my family that was in an interracial relationship. So I wound up talking to my mom that day, and she brought up this great, I can't keep up with all the greats, grandmother who had always been described by other family members as being extremely fair-skinned and possibly white. Now there's no way for me to go back in time, and she doesn't know, we don't have enough family members still living to really find that information. We don't have a picture, but it's just based on, like, you know how family rumors go with like, okay, there's that family member who did this thing or looked this way. It was one of those things. So she was just described as being a really fair-skinned woman, possibly white. Now, was she fully white? I don't know. She could have been biracial. She could have just been an extremely light-skinned black woman. I don't know, we don't know, and we won't ever know, to be honest. But she deduced that if we do have a European ancestry, it could have come from that great grandmother. In that video that I posted, I made a comment that I did not learn anything new or interesting about myself, something along those lines. And in the comment section, one thing that I frequently saw were people saying, how could you say that you found out nothing new or interesting about yourself? You found out, you know, the stuff that you didn't know before. That's actually not true. I actually always assumed that I had some type of European ancestry. And I assumed that really just because of slavery. Once again, if I knew for a fact I had, you know, a family member who was in this interracial relationship, it would be a fact. I would know for a fact that it was there. I know, and history tells us, that African women who were enslaved in America were frequently and routinely raped by white men, and sometimes mothered their children. But those children would become slaves. So if you're looking at the generations of people that came out of slavery that possibly could have been these biracial children who were the product of rape and sexual trauma, you would have some type of European ancestry just because of that. I didn't say that I didn't learn anything new or interesting about myself because I was somehow resentful of my European ancestry or ashamed of my European ancestry, or I had a great disdain for it, or that was the worst thing that could have happened to me. No, I was disappointed because, as I've said and will continue to say, I took a test called African Ancestry because it's something that could give you unique African ancestry results if you have that through your maternal or paternal lineage that I would not access through any other test. And that's it. Even though I never said anything hurtful or harmful about any individual or any group of people, my sheer reaction of, I guess, shock or disappointment, it was somehow interpreted as me being resentful of my European ancestry, which couldn't be the furthest thing from the truth. I have also frequently seen a comment that said, if a white person was crying over the fact that they had African ancestry, everybody would be up in arms. And that's only juxtaposed with this assumption that I was disturbed that I had European ancestry, which once again is not the case. I was simply disappointed that I paid for a test to get an answer to a question I thought I would never ever get, and that's it. I fully embrace every ethnicity that is a part of my genetic makeup, and I wholeheartedly feel that everyone should. I really appreciate people who have messaged me to discuss their own backgrounds and their children's backgrounds, and to discuss mine as well, and engage in more constructive conversations surrounding race and ethnicity. I live in America, which is the home of nothing but immigrants, and it's basically this huge melting pot, and I've built so many friendships with people of different ethnic backgrounds. For me personally, from 1st through 8th grade, I went to a predominantly white school, and it seemed like all of my white friends knew their roots. They could sit back and say, hey, I'm Italian, or my mom's French and my dad is Irish. One of my best friends in that same school was half Chinese and half Greek. It seemed like everybody but me and the few black kids that went to the school knew their roots. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm Nia, you know? I could not point to any single country and say, this is where my family is from. And I knew nothing outside of America. I could just say my dad is from down south, my mom is from New York, and that's it. I'm just black and I'm here. That's all the information that I had. And so growing up as a child and a young adult, I've always had this feeling like I wouldn't know until there was this huge explosion, of course, on the market of all these DNA tests where you could uncover your roots, which was significant to me as an African American to have that ability to do so. And then when I see a test that's more specific, like African Ancestry, which said, you know, we can tell you which country and region just like all these other tests, but what separates us is I can tell you a tribe. Once again, that's just what pulled me in, and I bought into their product and their service for that reason. So obviously I'm making this video to address or rather to explain my reaction in that previous video that I posted, and also to dispel assumptions and also just flat out lies about my character and who I am as a person that were taken the wrong way. Like my reaction was interpreted the wrong way by a lot of people, and these were assumptions that were made about me and my reaction to finding out that I have finding out that my maternal lineage is European. So as I said in the beginning of the video, I did take a different DNA test. I wound up doing Ancestry DNA, and I have the results. I actually got them a while ago. And what's funny about those results is that I still did not get the results that I thought that I might get. I did speculate that my ancestors would be from mainly Ghana, and I thought that because there's so many people who are from Ghana who've approached me and said that I look like I could be from Ghana too. So I thought that for me that was just like, okay, maybe I could be. I want to see if it's true. And I also speculated that I would have a certain amount of Nigerian blood in me. Spoiler alert, both of those things are way, way wrong. So without further ado, let's dive right into my ancestry. This is a different test, guys. An Ancestry DNA results. So I'm on Ancestry right now, so I can pull up my results for you guys. They have a section that says like discover your DNA story for Nia. So I am 37% Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu peoples, which is really, really vague in my eyes because it covers so many different countries. They say it covers Angola, Cameroon, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Malawi, Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Swaziland, South Africa, Rwanda, Namibia. Like, it covers so many different countries, so it's low-key kind of vague, but that's what I'm 37%. My genetic makeup is 37% that, Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu peoples. I am 33% from Benin and Togo, which was never on my radar, but that's a significant portion of my own DNA. And then I'm 11% from Ivory Coast and Ghana. So there's a little bit of Ghanaian blood in me, just not as much as I initially thought. And then 7% of my genetic makeup comes from Mali. And then Nigeria comes up as 4%. And then this is what I thought was kind of cool, is that I'm 4% Nigerian, but I'm 3% Swedish. So 3% of my genetic makeup is from Sweden, which is I'm basically just as much Nigerian as I am Swedish, which I thought was actually, like, when you think about that, it's kind of interesting. 2% of my genetic makeup comes from Germanic Europe, which obviously the focal point of that is Germany, but the other areas they have highlighted are like Belgium, Poland, France, Switzerland, Denmark, Croatia, Austria, Hungary, whole bunch of places. And then I'm 1% Irish and Scottish. Let's see what it says when I click on that, which covers Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. I'm 1% Senegalese, and I'm 1% East African, which covers Kenya and Uganda. So what Ancestry also covers is additional communities. So the first additional community they have highlighted is Virginia African Americas, and all of my additional communities in the Americas, they're saying that it's that my connection to those regions in America are most likely through my ancestry through Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu peoples, and Benin and Togo. Those ancestors, I guess, are most prevalent for when they came from Africa to America. So they settled in Virginia, which I think Virginia, somebody on my mom's side, I forget who it was. It might have been my grandmother's father, I think, lived in Virginia. I don't remember who, but my mom did tell me that somebody was from Virginia. So she was like, okay, makes sense. The second location is East Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Arkansas and Louisiana makes the most sense to me because most of my dad's side of the family is from northern Louisiana, so Arkansas is literally right above Louisiana, and they're still there. So that makes sense as well. And then the Carolinas, my grandmother is actually from North Carolina. So all those regions that it said count as an additional community, and the connection to that community is from my lineage from Cameroon, Congo, Southern Bantu peoples, and Benin and Togo. That's the areas in America that they settled in. And they describe all these things as an ethnicity estimate. So I guess it could be more or less whatever. So 6% of my ancestry stems out of Europe. So it covers Sweden, Germanic Europe, Ireland, and Scotland. So I guess it depends, because I wonder if, like, what part, if my dad's side would have some type of European ancestry as well, or is that part of my genetic makeup only from my maternal lineage? I don't know, but I guess if it were, that 6% is coming from those countries in Europe. And then the other 94% of my genetic makeup is coming from seemingly everywhere over Africa, but mainly Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu peoples, and also Benin and Togo. So I now have a better sense of where my ancestors are from, where exactly they settled when they first came here as slaves to America. What I do think is interesting is that there is really no mention of anything in the West Indies, because that's where part of my mom's side of the family is from. And as I said, they're from Barbados, so much so that like my uncle, so my grandfather's brother, helped to write the national anthem for Barbados, and there's literally nothing highlighted in the West Indies here at all. So I kind of sort of want my mom to take it, maybe because she's more closely aligned, or my uncle, he could take it too, because he is first generation American that's still living here, to find out what would be highlighted for him. So it's just interesting. Obviously, we all pick up on different genes from different parts of our family. Like my sister and I, we share the same mom and dad, and we could have two completely different results, because basically your DNA could pick up things that your siblings' DNA would not pick up on, which is really, really interesting. My final sentiments about kind of uncovering your DNA is that you can obviously be completely wrong about what you think your genetic makeup is comprised of, but at the end of the day, it all tells a story about who you are as a person, and things that your family has gone through to get to the point where you're at, which is all like, has always been fascinating to me. I still am kind of just like, womp, womp, womp. I still want to know more specific information. I guess I have to wait for technology to get a little bit better. So as Ancestry has now taught me, my strongest connection to Africa stems out of Cameroon, Congo, and Southern Bantu peoples. Actually, one of my friends, he actually is from Cameroon, and lives here now, and so he adopted me into his tribe. I forget the name of it, but maybe I'll put the name here, so I guess I'll claim that tribe until further notice. And then my strongest connection to Europe is out of Sweden. I don't know anybody from Sweden. I know people from like other countries in Europe, but I don't think I've ever met a Swedish person. But yeah, those are my two strongest connections to both Africa and Europe, and I have no connections to any other part of the world, like no Asian connections. Clearly here, apparently no West Indian connections, even though I know that's false. And no South American, like things like that. So obviously my strongest connections are to Africa, and then to Europe as well. And that's who I am. So thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, I am here for a constructive conversation surrounding race and ethnicity. But right now I'm curious to know if you've ever taken or wanted to take a DNA test to find specific information about your own ethnicity. Like I did. I was searching for specific information. I wasn't necessarily just doing it for fun or out of curiosity to find out everything initially. I did want very pointed information. So have you ever wanted to take a DNA test for that reason? Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you are new here or you're not subscribed, make sure you hit my subscribe button down below. And thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in my next one. Bye.